Hello and welcome to Slice TV. I'm here today to talk to Darrel Griffin, a LinkedIn specialist, or as he likes to have in his business card, a business social media mentor. So we're going to talk a little bit about LinkedIn and I guess what does it mean? What do you think the benefits are? But more importantly, I think there's some news today.
Yeah, LinkedIn has been acquired by Microsoft for $26.2 billion, I believe, US. So that's interesting news. I have nothing to add to that other than the news that it's happened. So, yeah.
Is it watch this space sort of thing and see if things change or what could change or what difference it could make or what?
Yeah, there's already a few voices on both sides of the sort of good or bad argument, but I tend to, at this moment, my gut says it's a good thing. Proof of the pie will be in the eating, but I think it's potentially a very good thing.
Okay, so LinkedIn, how do we use it? What do we use it for? How do we use it best?
Yeah.
What's your 10 cents worth there?
Okay. I'm often asked if people are in a hurry and they're whizzing by, they see me, they say, there's that LinkedIn guy, ask him one question, and they say, well, give us just one tip about LinkedIn. And I say this, look, just because it's a professional tool doesn't change the fact that it's still a social media tool. So ignore the word media and focus on the word social. Go onto LinkedIn and start being social with it. Stop trying to kind of like be this amazing kind of professional on it from day one. Just start having conversations with people. Treat it as a social tool, because that ultimately is what it is. It's not first and foremost a marketing tool. It's actually first and foremost a really good digital networking tool. So that's where I advise people to begin thinking of it in that way. I think we're seeing the rise of personal brand. So I think the value proposition of us as individual professional people is really important going forward. It's what I teach. I teach people to look at it this way. If statistically it appears that there's an increasing amount of professional due diligence done online now before somebody's going to be prepared to speak to you on the telephone or drop you an email. So it's important that we showcase our individual value proposition to the world in a way that they can consume, because they're not going to pick up the phone and ask you about it. And so I think this is a really important place to start, and this is one of the things that I consider to be foundational to everything, having a really strong profile which showcases, and I find when I'm working with people is that they're actually not very clear on their value proposition, actually what their value is to their prospective customers. So we begin there, and we try and get to the bottom of what is it, the value, what do you solve, and what do you save? What is it that you bring to the mix that is of real value to your clients? And then we build a profile around that value proposition so that if somebody visits their profile, they immediately encounter that person's value proposition rather than a resume.
Okay, all right. Now, just to get us up to speed, who is Darrel? How did you end up here? I mean, you didn't imagine go to school and think I'm going to become a LinkedIn specialist some time ago.
No.
So,
oh dear, what a
and
story.
I can tell by the accent you're not maybe born in Australia. So give us a little bit of background.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm 50 in 3 months. The first 45 years of my life was spent in the UK, seaside town called Bournemouth, and although some time in London working so I'll go right back. Didn't like school, to be honest with you. I left at 16, tried college, didn't get on with it, and I was fortunate enough to pass my driving test at the age of 17 and got a job in the wine trade. So I was delivering wine around my hometown and going up to London, picking up wine, bringing it back, distributing it around restaurants and so on and so forth. Spent 5 years in the wine trade and sort of progressed to a sales role in London and selling wine to the well-heeled people with an extraordinary amount of disposable income for wine. It staggered me sometimes. And from there, had my first foray, so that would have been in 1989, my first business. 1992, my first bankruptcy, and hopefully my one and only bankruptcy. I was bankrupt at the age of 25, which was an interesting season of life. But I'd learned certain things through that, learned certain software packages, and so I had a kind of an affinity for the signage and creative kind of space, and found myself kind of drawn into working in the signage industry. But because I've always really been in the sales side, I think I've always preferred working with people.
So this is in the sign business, making signs for companies. And
Yeah, I was never very good on the tools. To be honest, these hands haven't seen a great deal of physical work, but always very good with clients, always very, very interested in getting the best value for the customer. So I always gravitated towards sales or towards business development because that was always the best fit for me. So through various sign companies, through to in 2004, I believe, 2004 thereabouts, joined a company called Think with Warren and Jason. Hi guys. And worked with those as a director for their wide format printing division, and we turned that into a successful operation. So I was with those guys for 8 years before coming to Australia. You'll notice that throughout this whole thing I've not mentioned LinkedIn once, because actually although I was on it in the UK, it was only actually coming to Australia, and some of the certain things that you don't realise when you're beginning a new adventure, that you know the adventure is all sort of shiny, but then you arrive in a country where you know nobody, and you suddenly realise, hang on a minute, I've just been a company director for the last 8 years with all of that value and those relationships built in that context, and now suddenly I'm thrown into a situation where I know absolutely nobody. Where am I going to begin here? So very pleased to accept a role with Signs and Lines in Midland as an account manager, though I immediately was a little bit challenged in the role because it was very much dealing with incoming inquiries, very little face-to-face interaction with people, and I found that a little bit of a challenge. So I did approach the directors within around 3 months or so, and asked them if I could perhaps take a more of a business development role within the company. I also at that time expressed an interest in LinkedIn as a route to try and build relationships with prospective clients. They had certain target markets, and I said, well, you know, all the people that we seek to reach, decision makers we seek to reach, all have LinkedIn accounts. So it would seem prudent to at least pursue that to some degree. So they were brave and allowed me to pursue. I said, okay, let's see how it goes. They said, okay, if you can generate this sort of amount of leads in a year, we'll be delighted. It took me 4 months to do that. I learned very quickly that with a tool like LinkedIn, if you actually begin to engage with people and seek to be of value to them, that actually it can create opportunities very quickly. So I was looking at the competitors in the market, and I was thinking, okay, well, that actually all I'm doing when I go onto their profiles is I'm reading a resume about how amazing they are. You know, I'm a super sales guy who does this. Well, that's not you know, that would put me off as a customer. So I decided, okay, I need to position myself If we're going to seek to reach architects, I need to provide them with content which is relevant to them. I need to provide content that's relevant to graphic designers, and sort to position myself as a subject matter expert within sort of signage, with the view that I might become the sort of go-to signage guy in Perth within a year. And that worked really well. I just sought to build relationships, and there was a huge amount of, within a period of time. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time to establish relationships and begin that process. But so I discovered fairly early on that the way that we buy things, particularly sort of within a business to business kind of sector, sort of there's four sort of stages to it. Very basically, we become aware of a need or a want. We search for information to meet that need. We evaluate the alternatives available to us, and then we make a purchasing decision. So, whereas we're all very eager to get somebody to buy something for us, but we're less likely to sort of. I decided we needed to strip it back to the beginning. We needed to be able to help people right at the beginning of the process. So if somebody's become aware of a need within their business, I need to empathize with that need. This is all about value proposition. What is it that I can solve for you? What is the problem in your business that I can help you with? Because somebody may become aware of a need for helping with their marketing, and you may be able to solve that need with your video services. So it's all about positioning ourselves at the right stages of the buying process, because we're not going to get somebody to buy our product or service unless we've provided them with help throughout the process. So this is what I decided to do. I position myself accordingly. I'd empathise with the people that I was seeking to reach, because I knew the challenges that they faced. So I spoke into those challenges. Are you a graphic designer that has created a great, awesome brand for your client, but you're not quite sure who you can trust within signage to turn that into reality? I spoke into a little bit of that. Then I provided them with all the information they might need to make a wise purchasing decision. So I created content with the help of a graphic designer, put together content which was specific to the kinds of people that I was seeking to reach. So content for graphic designers, content for architects, all slightly different. And so many people typically say, just go and look at our website, you'll see lots of examples. I think we need to be far more specific and far more helpful, because people, rightly so, it takes a little bit of time to establish your know, like, and trustability. That's what I call it.
Okay.
People will typically, certainly within business will typically only buy from you if they trust you.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to trust you to be able to buy your service, and I understand that, and that's absolutely right. So what we're trying to do with this is to help people at each of these stages, so that when they come to their purchasing decision, they said, okay, Darrel's helped me. He's understood the challenge. He's understood the problem in my business, and I think he can solve it. He's given me all kinds of information that I can download, take away, so that when I come to evaluation, I'm evaluating Darrel against Darrel, who's provided empathy and information, against those people who've just given me a resume.
Yeah, or a sales pitch.
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
Price range.
Yeah, and so this is typically what we see on LinkedIn, is that somebody will invite you to connect, you accept the connection, and the next thing you get is a sales pitch.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work like that, friends. It's about building relationships and understanding that a decision to buy something could be over a significant amount of time, and you may connect with somebody that's not ready at all.
Yeah, it might be 12 months, it might be 4 years. Who knows when they might be needing your service.
But the other advantage of building these relationships is, and I'm going slightly off of that on a tangent here, is the power of the introductions and the networking that you can do with people. If you're positioning yourself as a subject matter expert within your field, people are then able to refer you. If you're genuinely and has to be a genuine thing. I don't think you can fake it. I think companies try and make these noises that they care, but ultimately, if you actually care that people are getting the best possible solution to their business problems, then
how does the truth be seen as real on something like LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to use it to, I guess, to show untruth, isn't it? Or to use someone else's information you've got from somewhere else to copy in as yours.
Yeah. I think there are... I've worked with people that have said to me, okay, we just want to do this with LinkedIn. And I think it's a little bit like, I don't know if you like me, but you've ever gone along to the gym, and I'll be honest with you, I go to the trainer guy and say, okay, like, I just want to target this bit of stuff around my belly. And he says, well, no, you can't just do that. You can't just target that. If you want to burn belly fat, you've got to burn body fat. It's a holistic thing. And I think this is the thing with LinkedIn. It is a holistic thing. We've got to... This is why I always start with the so that there's two sides of this. There's the professional, the individual professional approach, and there's the company approach. So start with the individual professional. You've got to start with the profile, because everything you do on LinkedIn typically sends people back to your profile. Your profile's got to be right. It's got to contain your value proposition. It's got to showcase some of your talent. It's got to be as focused on the customer as you can possibly. Forget how great you are. Just think about the customer and think about how you can solve their problems. If you only care about that, then that is a good profile as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. So what are you saying? So less about you, but more about what you want to do? Does that make sense?
I think that there's a lot you can put into a profile, but in terms of your opening exchange, if you like, maybe treat it like a conversation. If you're meeting somebody at a networking event and they ask about you and your business, you're actually far better highlighting the problems that you solve.
Okay.
Rather than saying, I do this, I do that, blah, 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 blah. And it's all very kind of, resume in style, if you like. Opening with stuff. I've discovered that many businesses have challenges, and this is one of the ones that I speak about. Many professionals that I work with have a challenge around time and a challenge around know-how when it comes to creating a great LinkedIn profile. So I solve that problem. This is about solving the problems that people have. So most people that I work with don't have a great profile when I begin working with them, so we start there. But that's just laying the strong foundation. LinkedIn facilitates some great strategies for what I would call forward-thinking professionals, those that recognize that their own personal value proposition has value not only to them, but also to people they might be working for, but ultimately for their clients. So great foundation being the profile, but then we can start to become thought leaders around our subject speciality. So, sharing projects, sharing knowledge, sharing tips and advice. Thought leadership is really important in terms of establishing yourself as a genuine professional within your field, because people measure you. And measure you digitally now. This is the thing. Yeah. This is the challenge. Yep. Statistically, our potential clients, even if we take an old statistic, which is now old, 2013, Salesforce informed us through some of their studies that a person in a business-to-business buying role was 57% through their buying decision before they would be prepared to engage in a traditional way, and I would include email as a traditional way. But yet we're still at it. We're still going, okay, well, I've got a phone, I've got to do the advertising and in the newspaper, and I've got an email and mailing list, and it's all noise,
Yeah.
But people are using social tools, online tools. They're making almost 2/3 of their buying decision themselves. They're doing all of their own due diligence. So why aren't I trying to engage people there?
Yeah.
Why am I trying to make a lot of noise rather than trying to engage, to empathize, to build relationships with people far earlier in the process, so that as they're going through this, actually being a voice of reason, being able to input into that and help them make a good decision. So thought leadership is part of that. I teach for anybody that has a business development interest, and that would potentially anybody who's a client-facing person, anybody with a business, any coach, anybody in sales. I teach on engagement. So I teach a particular strategy to engage with 3 people that you do not know every day on LinkedIn, which is 15 a week, 50 a month, 500 a year. Seek to begin a conversation. You seek to engage them around something within their profile. It's a big subject, and I probably won't unpack that any more than that. But the most neglected aspect of LinkedIn is the whole engagement. People have actually quite reluctant to engage. I find there are some people that do it really well, but the majority, I would probably go as far to say 85 to 90% of people really struggle with the engagement, actually just getting into conversations with people. But all those little pictures down the side of your screen, those little photos, is just another human being.
Yeah.
So ultimately, that's just,
It's because I see people putting new posts up regularly. Like if I go on my LinkedIn profile now or the homepage, I'll probably have 4 notifications of 4 new posts. And I look and go, well, actually, none of them I'm really that interested in, so I don't do anything. And if you go down the page, you can see the posts there, and you can see maybe 1 or 2 people put comments, but there's not a lot really, is there? There's not a lot of conversation about it. And I can see regularly some people putting their regular posts about what they might do. That might be like a related topic, trying to, I guess, either show that they know a lot about their business, show that they know a lot about their field, or and I tend to see through a little bit of that. Sometimes I do click on them to go, okay, I want to know, especially if it's something like one of my competitors or people in my business putting something on. I go, oh, what are they saying about it? Oh, okay, well, I know all about that. They're not putting anything new, but I can see they're probably trying to use it as a way to make themselves seem knowledgeable about their area and giving advice and tips, and hoping that will then turn into a lead. And but I noticed that I can see they haven't had any comments or they haven't had any likes, and I go to the posts on their website, there's still no comments or likes in there. So what are they doing something wrong there, or are they doing the right thing but just not winning?
I think it comes back to this: strip away the fact that I've got an agenda. Take hold of the agenda and shove it off a cliff. Okay.
Is it because you can see the agenda straight away?
You can.
Yeah.
I have a certain view about LinkedIn etiquette that, I'm not going to, if I have a good, if somebody's asked a question about LinkedIn and I've got a good answer to that, I tend to either go to the person who posted it and say, do I have permission? I'll message them directly. Do I have permission to link to an article that I've written on this subject? I'm not going to do it without your permission. Many people don't do that. They just say, here's a link. I think that's rude, in my opinion. The other thing is I like to try and help people to come to their own conclusions. So I try not to be prescriptive all the time. I try and ask more questions and try and draw people, particularly around LinkedIn, because, it's far better if you can learn to do something yourself than just taking some kind of LinkedIn pill that I give you that, it's better for your business longer term if you can, work this out yourself. So I try and draw people out, and there are other people that aren't like that. And so, hey, that's the way it is. But the other thing, of course, is that LinkedIn is, we come right back to the beginning, is actually a social tool. So when I say take hold of your agenda and throw it off the cliff, well, actually just engaging people in conversation. I go through my newsfeed and say, if I find something that somebody's posted which is actually, it may not be something that I know a great deal about, but there's somebody that I might want to get to know a little bit more. I'll ask them a question. Oh, that's an interesting article that you've posted. I'll take the time to read enough of it to get a feel for it and just ask a question about it. Because questions tend to provoke a response. And so, and I tend to, so that's a good way to, kind of a sales tip kind of thing. If you find somebody that you perhaps think, okay, this person is potentially a client for my business, they've written some of the longer form published posts, the pulse post type of articles. Clicking on one of those and asking a question about the article, actually, because they're typically a labour of love, these longer form posts, is going to provoke some kind of response, is going to open an opportunity for dialogue. And too many of us are kind of, opposite corners of the networking room thinking, okay, I'd really like to talk to that person over there about my business. I know they'd be really into my business, but, we don't think to just go up and say, hello.
Yeah.
My name's Darrel.
It's getting back to basics, being social.
Exactly.
But the first thing you said is about being social and realising that there actually are people. Like you said, they have that little picture, whatever that picture is. That is a person there.
It is. Now, let's be honest with you. A lot of the people that are posting, and this is not to get at you marketers, but I think a lot of people in marketing have been taught to market. So they've learned how to broadcast a message about the company they work for and so on and so forth. They're not really learned. I think that's one of the advantages of having a sales background, is that relationships are key.
Yeah.
So you recognise that actually the whole engagement thing is really important, to actually begin dialogue with people. Conversation leads to opportunities. And this is something I when I'm coaching in this sort of whole engage subject, I teach 4 C's: connect, converse, coffee, customer. Okay. Most people seek to connect and don't really know what to do from that point on. But I'll just try and leap straight to customer.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's what I call spam. You connect, you then message your sales pitch, and you're trying to convert somebody into customer. That's spam. The other thing is that people connect and they don't really know what to do with their connections, and all of their connections disappear into what I call the bucket of irrelevance. I have this, 600 connections, whatever it is, but I don't really have anything more to do with them than connection. So I encourage people to prioritize the second stage, which is conversation. You can always retrospectively connect with people. Connection isn't the be-all and end-all of LinkedIn. Conversation is where the magic happens, because it creates rapport. And context, builds context into your relationship, and to actually conceive something that wasn't there before. So a connection doesn't conceive any kind of relationship, but a conversation can. I can actually begin a conversation with somebody online. And as I learn to master this digital conversation thing, and I find my voice and seek to genuinely help people, it's actually not too challenging to get to a point where you can say to somebody, I've really enjoyed our chat. Yeah. I'd love to meet you for a coffee and continue the conversation. So that's the third stage, converting an online conversation into an offline meeting.
Okay.
So connect, converse, coffee. And, if you sit down with somebody and have a coffee and you genuinely are bringing value to them, and it's of value to their business, there's no reason why, unless you're a complete idiot, that you can't convert that coffee into a customer. It may not be tomorrow, maybe, but you've built something through these stages which has huge value to both parties. So,
And I guess it's also keeping that number 3 going, because like you said, it might not be tomorrow, there might be the cut. So it could be in a year's time, it could be in 2 years' time. But make sure you don't leave that number 3 hanging there, I guess. If you've gone to there, don't stop there.
There's also we touched on the news feed, but the huge value in, and something that I'd like to think I'm quite well known for, is creating branded status updates. So I'm very big into creating visual content, branded with, it ties into my brand, and that's been a big part of keeping me top of mind. On more than one occasion, I've been approached by people who've said to me, the first time that I've met them, and I've met them at a network, they come up to me at a networking event or something, and they've said to me, "Oh, Darrel, we've connected on LinkedIn." This particular chap, I remember saying to me, this was when I was still in the sign industry, and he said to me, "Oh, I was just having a casual conversation with a friend of mine. She's starting a business and she said, just in passing, she said, I'm going to need a sign company." And he said to me, he said, when she said that, when those words came out of her mouth, your picture appeared in my mind. And she says, and he said, why? Is because you share valuable updates. So this is the key to it. Value. Value is the key to it. If you share value, you'll be remembered. If you share a sales pitch, you will be forgotten. Not only forgotten, you will be remembered negatively.
Yeah.
So the key for us as individuals, and also the key for businesses, and that's a slightly different thing which I can talk about as well, is the sharing of value. Great profile, thought leadership, engage with people, share value. And if you can create a strategy, you can do all of those things comfortably in half an hour a day. And this is why why I teach strategy to people, is because you need a strategy. You can't spend your whole day doing this. Though I have found, if I'm going to be honest with you, people that I've worked with who are a little bit skeptical to begin with, I'm going to do this. They've done it. They started getting results from the strategy, and suddenly they've found more time to do it because it's actually benefiting their business.
Successful. Yeah.
Exactly. But you can't, too many, and I think I posted on this yesterday, LinkedIn will not carry you to customers. You can't just upload a profile and then say, okay, when's the magic going to happen?
Yep.
It's just a tool. And I use the analogy of my dad, Clive, was a carpenter all of his life, and a good carpenter. I was not. Okay, so if you took my dad and I to Bunnings and we bought some timber, some saw, plane, sandpaper and everything, I say, okay, your task, gentlemen, is to build a table. The results would be very different. Same tools.
Yep.
Different results. So this is the thing, got to learn how to use the tool effectively and properly, and that's why creating a strategy, even a bit like working with a personal trainer, to begin with the strategy is painful and challenging, doesn't feel natural, but as you get into it, you get better at it.
But I think a lot of us, well, I know myself, we're all sitting there, like you said, with the analogy with the carpenter, we're all sitting there with our lathes and our chisels and our hammers and going,
yeah.
What do I do with this? I've got it. I've bought them. Where do I start banging here and slicing there and doing that? And that's the way I feel about it a lot. And I'm sure I'm not alone there.
No, absolutely. Which is why it's going to sound like a bit of a sales pitch, and it's not meant to be one, but this is why I do offer some services which help people get off of ground zero to the next level. That's why I do create profiles for people. It's why I do help companies to create content and to create a strategy and distribute it through their team. These things all take time and know-how.
So finally, Darrel, if you owned LinkedIn, if you were Microsoft that now owns LinkedIn, what would you do with it? What would you do with this tool? If you must have, there's a lot of things out there at the moment about the frustrations people are finding with it, where the direction it's going, and they're all having their little opinions about it. What would be your choice?
Yeah. I tend to be, I've been described this by one or two people, a bit of a social media purist, in the sense that I'm very much into the social aspect of it. I think that's the key to its power. However, it just being a social tool, it's difficult for people to generate. It's difficult for LinkedIn or Microsoft, whoever, to make money out of us just all being social creatures with it. I think that's still where the power lies for LinkedIn. I would like, personally, if I owned LinkedIn, I would make it very much a heavily social tool. And I would perhaps offer the option of saying, you can either have more advertising in your feed or less advertising in your feed. If you want less advertising in your feed, you're going to have to pay a bit more than, if you want the free version, you're going to get lots of advertising. If you want to pay, you're going to be able to have less advertising, far more engagement.
Well, YouTube is doing that now with their new YouTube channel. You pay for it, you don't get the ads.
Yeah. I think there's merit in that. I think there are still some quirks with LinkedIn that need to be addressed. But for me, it's always been about. It's never been about that annoying thing doesn't work properly. As long as my strategy still, the approach to it, there's a philosophy, an approach to LinkedIn, and the same could actually be applied to the other platforms. It's just if you're a professional and your potential clients are also on the tool, and high likelihood that they are, then it makes sense to master LinkedIn. So I would encourage Microsoft, I know you're listening, that keep it social, because that's really what the customers want and need. And I think the danger is if you pursue too heavily, if you're too heavily dependent on revenue created by advertising, people are going to be scared off and walk away from it.
And we'll have a new platform in a couple of years that'll be doing the same thing.
BB is one, I think, out of Europe, I think out of Spain even, that is very much around the, very much a purist platform for professionals. But I'm encouraged by the Microsoft acquisition. I think we're going to see LinkedIn really establish itself as a can't do without tool for professional people, certainly for a decade plus to come. That's what my gut says. A foundational tool for we might bring in other we will do a YouTube, we'll do maybe do a bit of Periscope or whatever, but fundamentally when people want to come out and come back and find out about the professional me or the company that I work for, LinkedIn is always going to be the hub for that, I think.
So I did say finally, but I've now got just a final light-hearted one.
Yes.
Are you thinking of getting in your garage and making your own one?
My own social media? Oh, goodness me. Not at all.
Because you have to be in a garage, apparently. I think that all these things start from garages. You can't actually start it from an office anywhere. Remember, it's always, YouTube and all that. It's always started in a garage somewhere.
Yeah.
So,
I'll answer that this way. I like cars. I like cars that take me from there to there and there and back again. Okay, I have no interest in what's under the bonnet. I have no interest in it. I'm as long as they work, I'm delighted. Same with PCs or whatever. Just as long as it does its job, I'm delighted. I have absolutely. The only aside I'll add to that is I am very much into creating community. So there's some great tools like Slack.com. Where you can begin to build a community of people which is not centered around one of these actual social media platforms. So I am exploring that, but creating my own, no.
Well, Darrel, thank you very much for coming and talking to us about LinkedIn.
Yeah.
There's some great points I'm sure that we could all take advice from. Till next time, keep well. Bye for now.
Bye.